The film opens with British science fiction enthusiasts Graeme Willy and Clive Gollings embarking on their dream vacation, a road trip across the American Southwest hitting famous UFO hotspots after attending the San Diego Comic-Con. At the convention they are thrilled to meet their idol-acclaimed sci-fi author Adam Shadowchild, who is dismissive of them after they don't buy his book. Graeme, an artist and the more cautious of the pair, and Clive, a writer with a penchant for dramatics, rent an RV and begin their journey. Their first major stop is the Black Mailbox in Nevada, a famous landmark for alien enthusiasts near Area 51. While taking photos they witness a chaotic event, a car swerving erratically and then crashing violently. Investigating the wreckage they are stunned to find an actual extraterrestrial who has escaped from the overturned vehicle. The alien, who introduces himself as Paul, is a small gray-skinned being with large eyes exactly matching the popularized images of aliens. Paul quickly explains that he is a fugitive having escaped from a nearby secret military base where he has been held for 60 years. He pleads with Graeme and Clive to help him get to his rendezvous point, arguing that he's in a hell of a pickle. Clive initially panics, wetting his pants, which Paul notes referencing Clive's child's bladder, and faints, while Graeme is more quickly accepting of the situation. They agree to help Paul, loading Clive and the alien into the RV and speeding away, unknowingly being tracked by a ruthless high-level government agent named Zoil. During the drive, Paul reveals that for the past 6 decades he has been advising the US government, influencing everything from technology to popular culture, including sci-fi tropes. He even claims responsibility for the idea of Agent Mulder on The X-Files and Steven Spielberg's concept for E.T. He explains that the images of his face have been drip-fed to humanity on t-shirts and lunchboxes to prevent a mass spaz attack when the species finally meet. The trio's journey is punctuated by close calls with Zoil and his bumbling agents O'Reilly and Haggard. At a gas station they narrowly evade the agents, but not before Paul uses his cellular revivification power to instantly heal a small dead bird back to life, demonstrating his ability to manipulate tissue. They stop for the night at a secluded RV park run by Ruth Buggs and her ultra-fundamentalist Christian father Moses. Paul is forced to hide in the RV's bathroom. The next morning Ruth enters the RV to collect payment and is shown Paul's existence after a theological argument erupts. Paul, hiding, loudly dismisses creationism and promotes evolution, causing Ruth to faint upon seeing the alien. Graeme and Clive, now fugitives for kidnapping, are forced to take Ruth with them. When Ruth wakes up she is a hysterical zealot convinced Paul is a demon. To quiet her down, Paul transfers his entire collected knowledge and experience into her brain via a touch, a painful process that causes him to momentarily pass out. When Ruth recovers, her religious fanaticism is gone, replaced by a worldly scientific understanding and a constant flow of expletives. She is now the opposite of her father's creation. The group continues their escape, now a quartet pursued not only by Zoil but also by Moses, who believes the devil has taken his daughter. They eventually reach Paul's destination, a remote desert house where they are greeted by a now elderly woman named Tara. Tara, who as a young girl in 1947 discovered Paul's crashed spaceship, the one that landed on her dog, leading to Paul's nickname, has been waiting for him for 60 years. She has a malignant tumor that Paul has kept at bay over the years through telepathic contact. The base wants Paul back so they can dissect him, reverse engineer his powers, and ultimately stop him from healing Tara. The climax takes place at Tara's house as Zoil, the agents, and Moses converge on the location. In the ensuing chaos, Clive is wounded by Zoil and Paul is severely injured while attempting to heal Tara's terminal tumor. Graeme, with help from Ruth and Tara, fights off the agents. Zoil, finally catching up to Paul, is about to shoot him, but Moses, realizing the true nature of his daughter's captor and what is truly good and evil, shoots Zoil first. Paul, despite his critical condition, manages to use his remaining energy to heal both Clive and Tara completely. However, the process is too much and Paul seemingly dies. As Graeme mourns, Paul revives, explaining he just needs a moment to rest. Zoil, who was shot but not killed, attempts one last attack but is flattened by the arrival of a massive black alien spacecraft. A female alien steps out, revealing herself to be Paul's boss and the one he was meant to rendezvous with. The female alien, impressed by the humans' help, offers Graeme and Clive a trip to her planet. They agree, say their goodbyes to Ruth and Tara, and step onto the spaceship. 2 years later, Clive and Graeme are seen at another Comic-Con, now promoting their best-selling sci-fi novel Paul, which is based on their adventures. They are happy and well-adjusted while the female alien, now their friend, helps them sign books. The final shot reveals that Paul is still out there flying the RV through space, ready for his next adventure. British best friends Graeme Willy and Clive Gollings, two lifelong science fiction nerds, begin their dream road trip across the American Southwest in a rented RV after attending San Diego Comic-Con. Their itinerary is a pilgrimage to famous UFO hotspots like the Black Mailbox and Area 51. The journey quickly turns into a real-life sci-fi adventure when, after witnessing a chaotic car crash, they discover an alien named Paul who has escaped from the wreckage. Paul is small, gray, and looks exactly like the aliens in pop culture, a fact he later explains is by design. Paul, a foul-mouthed, wisecracking extraterrestrial, was captured in 1947 after his ship crashed and has been held prisoner at a secret military base for 60 years. He escaped when he learned the military planned to dissect his brain to harvest his advanced abilities, including cellular revivification, healing, thought transfer, and camouflage. Paul, who communicates fluently in English, a neural language router would be too much work, convinces the reluctant Graeme and the terrified Clive to drive him to a remote rendezvous point where his species will pick him up. The trio's escape is immediately complicated by a relentless high-level Secret Service agent named Zoel who is determined to recapture Paul. Zoel, who claims to be on a mission from God, quickly tracks the RV, though he is initially forced to rely on two dim-wit rookie agents O'Reilly and Haggard, who are easily distracted by pop culture and the nerd porn cover of Clive's novel. The situation escalates dramatically when they stop at an RV park and encounter Ruth Buggs, a fervent sheltered fundamentalist Christian woman, and her equally zealous father Moses. When Ruth enters the RV, Paul, hiding in the toilet, accidentally reveals himself while passionately arguing against creationism. Ruth faints from the shock of seeing the demon, forcing Graeme and Clive to take her with them, making them fugitives on a kidnapping charge. Paul uses his thought transfer ability to flood Ruth's mind with all his knowledge and experience. She wakes up completely cured of her religious fanaticism and full of profanity, embracing her newfound freedom from faith. As they continue their drive, they narrowly escape a violent confrontation with a pair of homophobic good old boys from the gas station, a scuffle which ends when Moses, still pursuing the devil who took his daughter, shows up. Ruth, utilizing her new knowledge, manages to heal her own congenital eye defect with Paul's guidance. Paul reveals that over the decades he has been an advisor to the US government, indirectly shaping Earth's culture and technology, including giving the basic idea for ET to Steven Spielberg and popularizing the alien image to prevent a mass panic upon real contact. The group eventually reaches Paul's unscheduled final stop, the home of Tara Walton, the little girl who found Paul's crashed spaceship in 1947. Tara, now an old woman, has been waiting decades to be vindicated, having been labeled crazy after the military took Paul and covered up the crash. Paul reveals he has been keeping her alive and healthy from afar using his powers, but she now has a terminal tumor. Paul needs to get to a specific mountain ridge to signal his rescue party, but he stops to finally heal Tara completely. As Paul prepares for the final healing process, Zoel arrives with Moses close behind him. Zoel is revealed to be a cold, calculating agent of a shadow government faction determined to eliminate Paul and his allies. A chaotic standoff ensues, during which Clive is shot while defending Paul. Paul is severely injured and Zoel is about to kill him, but Moses, who sees Paul heal Clive, realizes the alien is not a demon and shoots Zoel instead. Paul, using his last bit of strength, completely heals Tara and Clive before seemingly dying, only to revive moments later after a short rest. Just as the ordeal appears over, Zoel is run over by the descending alien mothership coming to rescue Paul. Paul's much larger, superior alien comrade emerges, who then thanks the humans for their help and invites Graeme and Clive to come with them back to their planet. Paul, Tara, Clive, and Graeme say their emotional goodbyes to Ruth and Moses, and the four aliens depart in the mothership. The film concludes 2 years later at Comic-Con, where a happy, confident Graeme and Clive are signing copies of their successful sci-fi novel Paul, based on their adventure. They are later shown with the female alien from the mothership, confirming they are now bona fide members of an intergalactic community, having fully embraced their new destiny. The film climaxes at Tara's house as all the pursuing parties converge. Paul, against the advice of his friends, attempts to fully heal Tara, exhausting his powers. Agent Zoel arrives and wounds both Paul and Clive. In the ensuing fight, the bumbling agents O'Reilly and Haggard prove useless, and the conflict comes down to Zoel, Moses, and the four fugitives. Moses, witnessing Paul heal Clive's wound, realizes the alien is a force for good and shoots Zoel. Paul manages to successfully heal Tara and Clive completely before collapsing, seemingly dead. Paul revives a moment later, having merely passed out. As Zoel attempts one final attack, he is instantly crushed by the arrival of the massive black alien mothership coming to rescue Paul. Paul's superior, a female alien who speaks with a high-level bureaucratic tone, thanks the humans for their help. Paul, who has now healed Tara's terminal illness and completely changed Ruth's life, is ready to leave. The female alien extends an invitation, and Graeme and Clive join Paul aboard the massive ship. They share their emotional goodbyes with Ruth and Moses, who is now fully accepting of his daughter's newfound cursing and secularism, and ascend into space. The film concludes 2 years later at Comic-Con. Graeme and Clive are now celebrities, signing copies of their successful novel Paul, based on their adventure, proving that their encounter with a real alien finally gave them the material they needed to become great science fiction writers. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.